So the only way that you can implement this is you have to have a program, obviously, but you also have to go out and train. And so you can do, web-based training, et cetera. You have to have contract owners. And that's something that in some companies just is not well understood or well communicated. So people have to own the responsibility at the relationship level, at the business unit level. And then you as procurement people can go out and train them and help them understand what they should be doing in order to manage risk down for the organization. You need to communicate the strategy across to your suppliers so that they understand what risk looks like and how you see the world, because they will help you manage the risk down. They want to stay on, obviously. But also the communication process goes right up to the board level, and in fact sometimes can extend beyond your organization, because you could put a public, I think about in the federal government, you could actually put a framework out there in terms of this is what we expect in terms of good risk management and governance, and from a taxpayer's perspective, we are protecting you, but the suppliers will then know what is expected. You want to be able to identify issues early on, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get that phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning that says, oh no, time to get in the office because you've got a big problem. You can start to analyze trends, because if you can start to see a layer across a number of relationships, you can start to watch the trends, and that can help you figure out how to manage down risk. Because it might just be at the business unit level. Maybe they haven't assigned contract owners, they don't understand what needs to be done, or your contracting process might need some help, or who knows what it is. But if you know what they are, then you can analyze them and you can address them. Also, I have found that it does help you avoid disputes, because things start to rise as a bubble up as a problem. Then you can start to manage that, and often those things they're just, the problem is dissipated fairly quickly. And you can start to be that melting pot to share the collective experiences of the organization, because now you do have a point of view, and you can help others, sort of bring their level of competence up, and also help your suppliers understand how better to be a supplier and be a long-term supplier. So really, without executive sponsorship, this won't happen, because there is an investment in resources. There are ways to do this quite easily that so it doesn't require a lot of extra resources. It's just a matter of focus, and also a matter of bringing people together so that they understand what is to be done. You're going to probably have to have at least a small program management office. I've done this in very large corporations with 3 people, for a multi-million-dollar organization, because once you get it out and it's sort of center-led and all the activities happening out there, it's actually not as burdensome as you think. It's just getting the program built and having it executed. You need to have a policy behind you, because otherwise nobody will listen. Those who have to read policy are, so you want to think through so it's not too prescriptive, but it's a guidance, and it helps people know what to do, and to integrate the processes. In one organization, I actually ended up with, sourcing and procurement, and I had enterprise risk management transfer the risk function in, and it made it a lot easier because I knew then to call them in. And I also had program management and supplier management. So when you put all those things together, it gives us a very good point of view, but it is a little unusual to have the risk management function agree to transfer risk management into procurement. People they don't have to be full-time, but they have to. You have to know who the risk officer is in each of the businesses, who owns the contract, and help them understand what needs to be there. So you put all those things together, and I would suggest that probably within a matter, it might take you a few months, but if you can just strip that layer off the top and understand it's back right to the scope question and figure out what's important, I think you could put a program in place that is not a huge administrative exercise and adds a lot of value. So I think that's it. So, questions? Yes.
And it sits with the same people who own the contract. So the person who owns the contract is responsible to administer the contract. But we do have a small risk office that if you're example, on how the invoices are sent. But the way the business runs is actually the rewards are much greater for the production of the contract than for its management.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's a common problem, but it seems to be, although we might even have these structures in place, it's actually their full integration, and actually there's a resource issue here.
Yes.
The issue of the day is always the contract that's being awarded, or RFP that's going out, and once it's done, it's done. Right? And I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah.
It's a difficult balance.
It is, and I find that if you have the sole responsibility for contract management in your procurement organization, that's really where you start to run into the greatest resource constraints, because you have so many other priorities that the day-to-day management is something that gets neglected. So suggestion might be that there are certain things that you can't talk anybody else into managing, and those are sort of the cross-the-board commodities. I mean, office supplies and couriers and whatnot, nobody will manage them because there's too many people, and also the very complex relationships. But there's a huge amount of middle ground of relationships that the business might be willing to take on. And so the question is, can you put it out into the business? And that's really the way you create the capacity. Because for a lot of things, you will find people who really, they do see it as their contract and they believe they own the relationship. So, hey, here you go. Let me help you. Let me help you, and let me equip you with the right things so that you also know what's expected. So you're not turning them into procurement people, but you're turning them into excellent, really capable relationship managers. And so if you just change the name on it, to something that is more appealing to them, then basically what you can do is just have a couple of people in the center then to help with the training and where things get out of hand, or they can go in and view it. And then on top of that, having a bit of technology to say the review's been done and here's the results, etc. Then you also have a point of view in terms of whether or not anything's actually occurring. So that's a way to get by the resource constraint, because I just don't believe in trying to manage everything centrally anyways, because you know what? Your business partners don't want you to manage their suppliers when it comes right down to it, but you'd like them to manage them well. So if you can empower them to do that and you have a little bit of visibility back on, you have your small G governance hat on then. So that might help. Any other questions? Okay, thanks.